Okay, at this time, it's 6:30. I'd like to call the Administrative Services Committee meeting to order for Monday, May 20th, 2019. Please call the roll.
Councilor Corino.
Here.
Councilor Demasi. Here. Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Tezzarero.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here. All right, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6, 2019 committee meeting. Councilor Demasi, Councilor Tezzarero, please.
Councilor Corino.
Yes.
Councilor Demasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tezzarero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Is there any old business to attend to for this committee? Seeing none, moving right along to new business. Item number 1, under authorization. Champion Events, LLC, requests authorization to purchase a field groomer for Legend Field Sports Complex for $9,668.14 from the General Contingent Fund. I don't see anybody here from the Champions Event people, but I could probably speak to what this is all about. As everybody knows here, we did enter a contract last April or May with Champions to manage our softball complex, and I think it has been a pretty good success. Not only is it working out well for the local residents, we're also having quite a few national and big tournaments come to the city. Part of that agreement that we signed with Champions was that we would supply certain things in any agreement, whether it's renting an apartment or leasing a car. Both sides have to agree to certain things. And one of the things that was in the agreement was that they were going to be able to use the groomer, and the groomer is basically a tractor that takes care of the infield dirt and gets it ready for a game. That they would be able to use the groomer that was there. Unfortunately, the groomer that is there is over 25 years old, and it's seen better days. I don't think it starts anymore, and it has other issues as well. So just like a landlord and a tenant, if I rent an apartment to John here, let's say, and the stove doesn't work after 2 months, I'm not going to tell you you're on your own. I'm going to replace the stove. So basically, it's our obligation to keep up on that agreement that we said that we would supply a groomer for the city. So we're not giving them this piece of equipment. We're actually buying the piece of equipment. It's part of the DPW inventory, and if and when Champions is no longer our management firm for the fields, it will go back into the DPW inventory. So I want to make that clear as well. So are there any questions or concerns from the council on this item? Seeing none, is there anybody in the public? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tezzarero, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Corino.
Yes.
Councilor Demasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tezzarero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Yes, I will have the city attorney take care of that one. He didn't know that, but he is. Thank you. Item number 2, Deborah Code, Oswego City Chamberlain requests discussion regarding transfer of funds in the enterprise fund. Mrs. Code?
Thank you, Counselor. You'll see that the transfer is requested from debt contingent. On occasion, EFC, the Environmental Facilities Corporation that handles the funding for our consent decree, will request a short-term principal payment on their short-term note before they decide to go long-term. They make all those decisions. So in anticipation of this, our budget always includes a debt contingent. So I'm just requesting it to be transferred to the appropriate expenditure line item.
All right, very good. Any questions for Mrs. Code? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Hill, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corino.
Yes.
Councilor Demasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tezzarero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 3, Kevin Caracoli, City Attorney, seeks favorable consideration to enter into an agreement with the County of Oswego and the Oswego County Land Bank. Mr. Caracoli?
Mr. Chairman, 3 and 4 are very similar, but have a slight difference. With respect to number 3, there are properties that the city has taken over, and you have all agreed to transfer those properties to the land bank. I think generally the understanding now is that they are transferred whereby we waive taxes. In other words, the county and the city both mutually agreed to cancel out any taxes that's owed to the other in exchange for a deed to these properties that go then to the land bank. They get renovated and sold, put back on the tax rolls. What I'm proposing here is just formalizing that agreement between the county and the city to cancel out any taxes that are owed. There are prior action of the county legislature identified 3 particular properties that's in your packet. Number 4 then deals with every other property that might come along. We institute the Oswego County Land Bank into the real property tax foreclosure procedure. So that's the difference. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, Councilor Tesorio.
Councilor Caracoli, what happens when we tear one down as far as the taxes owed?
So these are for properties that are being transferred specifically to the land bank, and in that case, we would be canceling out the taxes.
Also?
Both, yes, the county and the city.
Okay.
And that, it raises an important question, though, an issue that is, we are not canceling taxes if this is being sold to a third party other than the land bank, but this is specific to the land bank and their purpose and mission that we've supported all along. So I just wanted to make that clear. This is not a blanket cancellation of properties that we take over in a tax proceeding. Quite the contrary, we're working on a couple right now that we are actually collecting all the taxes that are owed in exchange for returning the property back to the prior owner.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the council have a question from the public? All right. I know the land bank has been a very successful program that the county instituted, and I see quite a few houses in the city of Oswego that have the signed land bank for sale, so I'm a big supporter of that program. I think it's working out well. Anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tesorio, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor Donati.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorio.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 4, Kevin Caracoli, City Attorney, seeks favorable consideration in connection with an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Oswego in relation to foreclosure proceedings involving property located within the City of Oswego.
So in February of this year, the county legislature adopted proposed changes to the intermunicipal agreement between the City of Oswego and the County of Oswego related to tax foreclosure proceedings. If you recall, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we accelerated the foreclosure time period from 3 years to 2 years. That's part of this agreement. The change that is being proposed now is to simply include that language regarding the Oswego County Land Bank. So it's on page 5 of the agreement. It's section 13 that deals with the land bank and the agreement between the city and the county to cancel any taxes or municipal charges that are outstanding on tax, delinquent, or foreclosed properties that would be conveyed or donated to the land bank.
All right, very good. Any questions from the council? From the public? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Tesorio.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor Donati.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorio.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Item number 5, Thomas Kells, Commissioner of Public Works and Parks and Recreation, has received bids for various construction and trade materials from Onondaga County Purchasing. And I don't see Mr. Kells. Is there anybody else here to speak to this? I think we did get information in our packets, and did everybody have a chance to review? Basically, what it was Onondaga County went out to bid on some items that were used, gloves, rakes, Gorilla Tape. Went to various vendors for bidding purposes. They went to 3 local vendors for quotes, and I think each of us saw that not everybody quoted on everything, but it is a all-inclusive list of the items that we use, and it will help the city going forward when they're purchasing items. Is there anybody else that has anything to add to this? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corino.
Yes.
Counselor Tomasi.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Item number 6. There's a request from JWJ Industries, which has submitted an application and has deposited with the city clerk the required fee of $500 for a major hauler for 2019 solid waste license. We're just accepting that fee at this point. It's basically standard bookkeeping for all haulers to pay a fee. Any comments or questions?
No.
All right, can I have a motion, please? Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corino.
Yes.
Counselor Tomasi.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Item number 7, bids have been received for the 2019 roofing project, and the low bid for the project was submitted by WCA Roofing and Sheet Metal Company in the amount of $334,000. We request the Common Council approve said bid. I believe everybody on the council remembers that we talked about the roofing projects that we're going to be doing this summer. And I think Mr. Johnson can explain it better.
Just, there are 3 different roofs. There's a pump station at the water treatment plant that needs a roof. Sewer lift station on East Cayuga Street, and the high dam power plant. All 3 of these buildings house very expensive equipment, and they all 3 need a roof this year.
Very good. Any comments? Councilor Tesorerio.
Mr. Johnson, have we ever used this company before? They have a track record with us, or is it...
Say it again?
Have we ever used this company before in the city of Oswego?
Yes.
Good reputation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corino.
Yes.
Counselor Tomasi.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Item number 8, Kevin Caracoli, City Attorney, requests an executive session for discussion regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation, specifically Georgiana Butler, notice of claim versus the City of Oswego. Because we have 2 other committee meetings coming up, I suggest that I entertain a motion to go into recess, and then we'll revisit this after the other committees. Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corino.
Yes.
Counselor Tomasi.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
This is your...
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for Monday, May 20th, 2019 to order. Please call the roll. Here?
Yes. Here.
Yes.
Here.
Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6th, 2019 committee meeting? Councilor Gozick? Councilor Wilmot? Yes.
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 Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Under authorization, item number 1, the City Engineering Department, on behalf of Edwin Dem, owner of a single-family dwelling located at 273 West 3rd Street, requests use of public space in order to relocate an existing driveway between the sidewalk and right-of-way fronting West 3rd Street. Mr. Johnson?
Well, Mr. Dem has a very unique situation, and I know we're not supposed to be putting use of public space in for parking, but Mr. Dem owns a house adjacent to a lot. He bought a house, tore it down. The house had to go. It was dilapidated. And the house that he tore down had a parking pad in front of it. It needs to be repaired anyways, and Mr. Dem would like to take that same size area and move it closer to his house and, you know, return the rest to a lawn area. So it's not really extending anything. It's just a matter of relocating it and improving it. And, you know, he's already tore down a house, which is an improvement to the neighborhood. So I hope you can push this forward.
So we're not losing any additional green space? It's just a move. Does anyone have any concerns?
If I may,
Yes.
Mr. Dowd,
Sure.
what I'm proposing is to combine what is current parking pad plus the sidewalk that led into the house, comprises about 243 square feet. Take that, create a new pad that will be approximately 198, returning about 45 square feet of green space, and then centering the pad where it is now, which is literally on the property line at one side, and then, of course, putting it again in the middle.
Okay. Yeah, we do have attached photos in the site plan.
I'm sorry.
There are attached photographs in the site plan. So, yep, we have all of that, so I can see that it's really just kind of moving. And as long as we're not losing any green space, the intent of the new law is to protect existing green space. So, does anyone have any concerns, or?
Oh, no, just being
Councilor Gozick?
Yep, being Fifth Ward Councilor, Mr. Dem's in my ward. I've looked at him and down there. I know he's done a lot of work, and the big thing is, it's basically a swap, and actually, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but there'll actually be more green space than there would have been originally. So I'm hoping everybody could support this tonight. They put a lot of work in, and it'd be great so they can move ahead with their putting this in. They wanted to get it all done here this summer.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have a motion? Councilor Gozick, Councilor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Item number 2, the City Engineering Department has received a request from Tallman Street neighbors for use of public space for 2 projecting street signs on posts mounted at Tallman Street on the corners of West 3rd and West 5th Streets. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, this is very similar to the Ellen Street. So the neighbors up there like the signs on Ellen Street, so they wanted to put them on Tallman Street, and I don't find any problem with it myself.
Okay.
They need to just do the hold harmless agreements.
Okay. Yeah, the signs do look nice. Is there anyone else to speak to this, or did anyone want to present? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Gozick?
No, I was just going to say, being right adjacent to my ward, Tallman Street, I think it adds a lot of character to the neighborhood and instills a sense of civic pride in the people in the neighborhood. It does look nice every time you go by there, so if it's contagious, great. I think it looks nice.
Agreed. Could I please have a motion? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Item number 3, the Special Events Committee has received a request from Jerry Millar for a waiver from the noise ordinance for the Porch Fest event to be held on Sunday, September 22nd, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., as well as street closure on West 5th Street between West Schuyler to West Seneca Street. Mr. Rudzik?
Thank you very much. As you all know, the Porch Fest is a recurring event that's been growing in popularity within the city, and it's to promote the revitalization effort done by the Oswego Renaissance Association and really highlighting the historic aspect of our neighborhoods, and also to promote community involvement. And so I support this project. Again, it's a recurring event.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Rudzik? Could I please have a motion? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Item number 4, Kingsford Elementary School, through the Community Development Office, is requesting road closure and safety personnel for the annual triathlon to be held on Saturday, June 8th, 2019, between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. Mr. Rudzik.
Thank you. Again, this is another event that is a recurring event. The Kingsford Tri event has been going on for about 4 or 5 years now. Actually longer, I'm sorry. So it's a recurring event, and we've forwarded on to OPD, and they agreed to provide safety personnel for the event. And again, it's a well-supported event for the community. Layton just had a request done at the last event, and so Layton and Kingsford is 2 schools that participate in this event. So,
Great. Any questions for Mr. Rudzik? Could I please have a motion? Councilor Gozick, Councilor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
And we have one additional item that was an add-on this evening. It's a request to use public space submitted by K Club Properties, LLC, owner of a commercial building located at 17 to 23 West Seneca Street, in the First Ward in order to install new concrete ramp, 21-inch knee wall with deck and cafe tables with seating 9 foot by 53 foot between the sidewalk and right-of-way fronting West Seneca Street as shown on the attached site plan. Mr. Johnson?
So the sidewalk that was fronting that property was, had a very steep ramp to it. It wasn't ADA accessible, and, you know, the redevelopment of this property requires that they get a ramp in there. And because there's enough room to put a few tables outside, they were requesting to put a couple of cafe tables as well. I don't see any issue with the project.
Okay, excellent. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak to this event or this item? No, okay. Any questions from the council? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Matt.
Yes.
Counselor Rhodes.
Yes.
And it looks like that is the last item. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Gozick, Councilor Wilmot.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Matt.
Yes.
Counselor Rhodes.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I would like to call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order, May 20th, 2019. Can I have the roll call, please?
Counselor Caprera.
Here.
Counselor Corino.
Here.
Counselor McBroom.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6, 2019 committee meeting? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBrady.
Counselor Caprera.
Yes.
Counselor Corino.
Yes.
Counselor McBroom.
Yes.
Okay, we've got one item under old business. The city clerk's office has received a request from David Thompson, owner of Gibby's Irish Pub, located at 8 West 2nd Street, for a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to host outdoor musical performances. Is there anybody here to speak on that? Councilor
so-
McBrady.
Kevin and I had been working on a blanket ordinance that would waive noise waiver for the 3 bars that are border on residential areas in the city. So that would be Gibby's, The Office, and The Sting. Gibby's is the first one that applied. So we just drafted, and we gave to you tonight, the one ordinance that will, the one resolution that will be passed for all 3. So they'll all have exactly the same. And you'll see that whereas they had asked for till 2 o'clock on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and then for Harbor Fest as well, we're looking at granting them 11 o'clock on Thursdays, 12 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays, and 10 o'clock again on Sundays. And then for Harbor Fest, 12 o'clock Friday and Saturday until 2 o'clock, Thursday until 12, Friday and Saturday until 2, and Sunday until 10. And then we beefed up the, what would you call it? The
Remedies in case
the
there's...
remedies in case of violation.
Okay.
So I think that altogether we had some conversations with residents who had been affected by different events that were held at some of the bars, and came up with a nice compromise that would recognize the quality of life for residents, and then at the same time businesses need to capitalize on summer events.
Okay, thank you. Counselor, can I ask you a question? This
Yes.
is going to go to council next week.
Correct.
If this passes, does Mr. Thompson have to come back in and reapply, or he'll be granted whatever we pass? So he doesn't have to come back?
Be my interpretation that his application's in, he should be granted.
Okay.
And I, you know, I mean,
The reason
we've already tabled his once, and I
Right.
don't know if he's, you know, got acts lined up for this weekend, but, yeah, I would
we-
not condone delaying his application any further. I understand and appreciate and completely agree with the idea of combining all, but certainly wouldn't want to hold up any one for waiting for the others.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't...
it's a short season for these people. and we're getting to the point where we take a week away from them, or 2 weeks.
I can't hear you.
I said, it's a short season for them. We don't want to take another week or 2 weeks away from what their season is.
No, I don't see why we would need to.
Okay, so if we pass this in council, he's set to go.
Yes.
Okay, or anybody else that has applied.
Kevin, Mr. Thompson has already said that this is fine for his request.
Right.
We were considering talking to the office and the Sting now to have it one blanket that we vote on next week, or letting them know that this is what we will grant them when they do come to us for the variance. We can do it one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think the idea of it being consistent for each is really key here, but my only point, I think, to the Chairman's point, is not to hold anyone up for the
No.
sake of the others. Yeah, great.
We can draft this for next Monday, right?
Certainly.
Exactly.
So do I have to have a motion to approve this particular application, even though he's already applied?
I would, yeah, I would have that particular resolution approved. Either way, it's going to go to the council. What Councilors Hill and McBrady have put together will cover Mr. Thompson. It'll also cover anybody else that applies.
Okay, because I don't have any language in here that says we're passing that this evening.
Do we need to submit a motion to amend the application?
Well, the application is already, I mean, it was tabled the last meeting, as I recall. Right. So, if anything, you're amending the resolution to incorporate all of the similarly situated establishments. To my knowledge, the only establishment that has an application pending is Mr. Thompson's.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. We can do this for just Gibby's next week. What I'm asking is that his application, his original resolution, it differs in terms of its time frame
Right.
from the resolution that we want to actually put before council next week. So
Right.
do we need to propose an amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
To conform with what you're proposing now. Yes, I would recommend that. And then it will all be, the resolution will be before you next Monday based upon what you're currently contemplating adopting.
Okay, that being said, can I get a, I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilor Cordino.
I have a question, since you drafted this. I'm thinking about next year, when this comes up. So how does this work next year? Will we be reaching out to the 4 or 5 taverns and bars that are looking for this type of variance? Do we tell them, you all have to come in by a certain date, so it's all done in one swoop?
We did not last year. Last year, we just did it as they came in.
Right.
But we had mixed results in terms of them all being exactly the same.
Right.
So I don't see why we can't grant their requests as they come in, amended to reflect what we are actually going to allow them to do.
All right. Okay, so...
I mean, we would think it would be more streamlined if we simply reached out to them, to the other 2, and said, you know, do you want us to include you in this next week?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to just...
And the purpose of that is basically so we don't have to do this
Exactly.
piecemeal.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like, you know, we're taking on more responsibility. I'm talking about the city, reaching out to them and saying, it's sort of like what we did earlier with the trash hauler. You know, we're not contacting the trash hauler and saying, you better come in and get that permit. But in this case, you're saying we're going to be basically kind of encouraging them to come in by a certain date, hopefully. I mean, it's a short season, as Councilor
Well,
Tezzarelli
I
was
mean, they
saying.
can come in whenever they like, and they may not...
Okay.
Some may not choose to come in and ask for a variance, you know what I mean? So, with the thing that we wanted to make clear was that it would be the same, whenever
It's all,
they
you're making it
decide.
uniformed. All the
Exactly. It will be
guidelines are
uniform.
uniformed, and this is what it is.
For the
and-
ones bordering on residential areas, so it doesn't affect, you know,
Lighthouse
like
lanes?
Lighthouse Lanes, which is an industrial commercial.
All right. Thanks for answering that.
I'm going to make an amendment to propose the new changes for Mr. Thompson.
Right. But it will not necessitate a new application.
Okay. Can I get a motion to amend Mr. Thompson's application, or not application, but to amend well, it's actually amending the rules to the new noise ordinance. Councilor McBarty, Councilor Cordino.
Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBride.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come to this committee now?
Do we then need to send this amended resolution to council next week? There's a second.
So the amended resolution will be what will be on the council agenda
Right.
for next week. And presumably, with a majority vote, Mr. Thompson will have his permit, and whoever else applies between now and, I guess, the end of the summer, will have a similar time frame
That's
that
what I
they
thought.
can conduct their business and play their music.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there any other old business to come before this committee? I see none. We'll go to new communication. The City Engineering Department has received a request from National Grid for a waiver of the noise ordinance for the installation of a new natural gas pipeline under the Oswego River.
So,
I see some representatives from National Grid. Mr.
so-
Johnson?
yeah, got a call from National Grid, and, they need to upgrade some of their gas lines. One of them is the one that goes under the river, and they need to put a boring station and a receiving pit and to get under the river. Okay, so the boring pit is going to be located in the 7th Ward. And they're expecting to put at least 66 days of 24-hour-a-day drilling, nonstop. And on the receiving pit, they expect to have it as much as 22 days of 24-hour-a-day activities on the east side over by the Pontiac Nursing Home. So, we just had a large discussion on noise. This is a noise project. I'm not certain that it can't be done in the wintertime, and one of the questions I had is, why do you have to go 24 hours a day? And I'd like to see that they're able to modify that. I'd like to see them push as hard as they can. I know it might cost them more, but if I lived over in the 7th Ward 24 hours a day, all summer long, I would never vote for the person that allowed it. Again.
Mr. Johnson. I mean, we had a problem with, years ago when we ran the Scythe water line, and we tried to run it underneath the river with the same sort of process. Do we anticipate that through the rock that's in the bottom of the river? Or?
I'm not sure where that particular bedrock, where that shelf goes. They might find it. And if they do find it, it's going to cost National Grid big time, because that was the hardest rock that company ever saw in the world. They worked all over the world. And they went bankrupt trying to bore under the Oswego River. So, but the rock does change, and I think where they're at, they'll probably be into a Medina sandstone and not into the bedrock.
Okay.
But that's, that could change.
All righty. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My name is Ben Wiesel. I'm an attorney for National Grid. I'm just going to make a brief presentation, and I will definitely address Mr. Johnson's remarks and questions, and any questions that the council might have. So it's about a 6 or 7 minute presentation. My name is Ben Wiesel. As I said, I'm an attorney for Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, doing business as National Grid. The documents that I just submitted to you include a segment of the New York State Public Service Law that's relevant to our work, the Federal Pipeline Safety Act including some language that's relevant, an aerial photo, and some other documents that show the path that the bore is taking. If the other council members would like to receive these, I'd be more than, I have additional copies if you want them, but I can go through them as part of the presentation. We have a long environmental assessment form, a noise analysis, and a sound curtain manufacturer spec. Since 1986, National Grid has operated Pipeline 55, a natural gas transmission pipeline in the city of Oswego. For over 30 years, Pipeline 55 has provided safe and reliable natural gas service to its customers. As we will discuss in greater detail in a few minutes, starting in April of 2020, so in other words 11 months from now, National Grid must bypass an existing section of pipeline that runs under the Oswego River by constructing a new 2,400-foot section of pipe under and on the eastern and western banks of the Oswego River. So on this aerial, you can see, this is the entry pit just south of the National Grid maintenance facility, and the mooring to the east, in between the nursing home on the actual Yeah, of course. Once the work is complete, we'll be able to conduct internal inspections of the pipeline without interrupting our customers' gas service. National Grid is required by federal law to assess the integrity of its own transmission pipelines. Completing the proposed work will allow National Grid to comply with federal law and ultimately to ensure we continue to provide safe and reliable natural gas to our customers. Just to be clear, the work that we're proposing tonight is only for safety and compliance purposes. We're not adding any new customers as a result of this work. We're here tonight to respectfully seek the Common Council's determination that the construction work associated with this project is permitted on a temporary basis as an exception to the Oswego City Code Section 165 noise requirements and to request a negative declaration under seeker. As part of my presentation, I will briefly describe the benefits of the pipeline, the federal regulations that we're complying with by completing this work, and our construction details and schedule, and obviously any questions that you might have. With me tonight are several experts from National Grid and also some consultants that we have, again, who'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. As the board is aware, National Grid is considered a public utility under the laws of the state of New York. According to Section 65 of the New York State Public Service Law, as a public utility, National Grid must provide safe and adequate gas to its customers. Pipeline 55 is a vital source of power for Oswego and the rest of New York, as it currently provides safe and adequate gas to the NRG station, which supplies power to approximately 1.3 million homes and businesses in New York, and National Grid's regulator station 2228A, which supplies the redundant feed to Oswego's natural gas distribution system for the SUNY Oswego campus and over 1,150 homes and businesses in Oswego. These customers rely on Pipeline 55's constant supply of gas to heat their homes and cook their food, and they cannot afford a prolonged disruption to this supply. The federal law that I submitted to you is the Pipeline Safety Improvement Act of 2002. That regulation requires pipeline operators to develop and implement an integrity management program for underground transmission pipelines like Pipeline 55. According to the section that I provided to you, which is section 192.937C, a natural gas transmission pipeline operator must assess the integrity of the line pipe in the covered segment by choosing a method determined appropriate by the operator. National Grid's integrity management plan for this pipe is to utilize an internal computerized inspection tool capable of detecting internal corrosion, manufacturer's defects, and/or abnormalities in the pipe resulting from wear and age. After completing the proposed work and replacing this stretch of Pipeline 55, National Grid will be able to conduct ongoing, periodic internal inspections of the pipeline to ensure its continued safe operation and National Grid's compliance with these regulations. Now I'll just briefly talk about the construction details, which obviously we can get into detail. As I stated earlier, starting in April of 2020 and ending in November of 2020, National Grid is planning to bypass an existing section of Pipeline 55 that runs under the Oswego River with a new 2,400-foot section of pipe. This new section will be constructed so that an internal inspection tool can safely travel through the pipe. I already discussed the location, but I'll just give you some more details. The proposed drill will be located on National Grid's within the existing National Grid overhead distribution line right-of-way via a horizontal directional drill. The proposed drill, as I said before, will begin southwest of the existing National Grid garage maintenance facility on West First Street in the 7th Ward and end south of the St. Luke Health Services facility at the intersection of East First Street and Ludlow Street in the 6th Ward. The replacement gas pipeline will be welded and staged on the east side of the river, also within an existing National Grid right-of-way, and then pulled through the borehole. In order to install the pipeline, National Grid will be drilling through silt, sand, siltstone, and sandstone bedrock at a rate of approximately 50 feet a day, 6 days a week, primarily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. However, as noted on our schedule and by Mr. Johnson, portions of our construction work will require 24/7 operations. National Grid understands that our construction activities will take place in proximity to residential uses and 2 nursing homes, and we are very sensitive to the impact our construction activities could have on our neighbors. In an effort to limit construction noise, National Grid intends to take the following steps. Number 1, constructing a temporary noise barrier around our equipment on both the west side and the east side of the river, which offers the benefits of sound absorption, a barrier to noise, and a barrier to light. This will consist of a plywood structure approximately 20 feet tall, surrounded by sound-absorbing materials. We anticipate this barrier will reduce noise levels by 10 dBA. The second thing we're planning on doing is, in our contract with our contractor responsible for construction, we're willing to require them to use sound mufflers, silencers, acoustic insulation, and louvers to reduce noise to the maximum extent practicable. We'll ask them to use the quietest equipment possible and to locate stationary noise sources, including generators and compressors, as far as possible from any residences. Number 3, we will have a noise mitigation plan to be followed by our contractors, including shutting down noise-generating equipment when it is not needed, and moving workers as far as possible from residences when they are not working to ensure they don't disturb our neighbors. In addition, during construction, National Grid would be happy to keep the city as informed as possible regarding construction conditions and schedule. Therefore, if the city agrees, we can forward weekly status updates to Mr. Johnson and also to the building inspector, have on-site meetings to discuss our progress during construction, and provide updates via any other means of communication the city prefers. And the 5th idea would be to conduct house-by-house notification of the upcoming project and inform the public of the upcoming work. We're also planning on having a 24/7 hotline available, so if people are disturbed, we'll do everything we possibly can to make sure that we're reducing the noise, if practicable. When National Grid was planning this project, we understood the City Council would likely have concerns regarding the noise and overnight construction associated with our work. That's why we're here before the Common Council 11 months before the project is set to begin, so we can make sure that we hear your concerns and we address them to the maximum extent that we can. In addition to the documents that I submitted, we also received letters of support from 3 of the largest employers in the city, Novellus, NRG, and Indec, which I'll submit into the record. Just for your reference, I'll just read Novellus's letter. It's short. Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing on behalf of Novellus Corporation's Oswego, New York plant to express our full support for National Grid's proposed upgrades to the existing natural gas transmission system in the city of Oswego. As a longtime customer of National Grid, we are excited to hear that they are investing in upgrading their infrastructure, which will continue to provide Oswego with safe and reliable natural gas. Novellus has continuously operated in Oswego for almost 60 years and currently employs over 1,000 Oswego area residents. As a leading supplier of aluminum sheet to automotive and other industries, our business must have a constant and reliable power supply, including natural gas. And like all other businesses in Oswego, disruptions to our power supply can result in equipment damage and significant downtime. Therefore, we fully support National Grid's transmission system infrastructure upgrade project, which will increase reliability and reduce the likelihood of outages that could impact operation and the continued success of our business. In addition, we believe that the reliable energy provided by this project will stimulate further commercial development in the Oswego area, create additional jobs, and provide a continued benefit to the local economy. So here are the letters. So, in conclusion, yes,
I got one question.
sure.
What is going to be the DBA of the drilling? Does
Sure.
anybody know?
Yes. So we have in the packet that we gave you, we have a noise analysis. And if you give me 2 seconds, I can have Barbara Wagner from Stantec, who is our noise consultant, who prepared a noise analysis to come up to discuss the noise.
Okay. I'd like to know that.
Of course. So Barbara, if you can just state your name.
I'm Barbara Wagner. I'm an environmental engineer with Stantec Consulting.
If you just briefly describe the study.
Sure. Because National Grid was aware that noise would be a concern with this project, they asked us to prepare an assessment and recommendations for mitigation during construction. So what we did was actually pretty straightforward. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has a guidance policy for noise assessment and mitigation, and it's really pretty much a 2-step process. In the first step, you break your construction into phases. You figure out what kind of equipment you're going to need for each phase, and then you get your manufacturer's specifications. We went to the Federal Highway Administration database. We did some ground testing. We actually went to some HDD sites and did some noise measurements in a real-world situation. And we looked at other typical construction projects to look at the kind of noise levels that we might be expecting here. We collected the equipment lists and the information we'd gathered. We put together a schedule of the maximum number of pieces of each type of equipment that might be operating during each phase, and that gave us a total maximum anticipated sound level for each phase of the construction. And I want to emphasize that's a maximum. We assumed that all the equipment would be operating all at the same time, which is going to be more than real world for most of the building duration. So that gives us the sound generated on the construction site. Most of the specifications are given in terms of somebody standing about 50 feet from the equipment. Obviously, the residences in the adjoining property are going to be further away than that. So the next question you ask is, what are those sound levels as you get farther and farther away from the construction? So what the DEC policy says is, forget buildings, forget screening, forget hills that might be sound barriers, forget trees, forget absorption in the air, and just look at what happens as you get farther from the project. So you'll see a scary-looking equation in there that has to do with logarithms and summations. But quick and dirty rule of thumb, for every doubling of distance away from a sound source, you drop about 6 decibels. So if I'm standing 50 feet from a piece of equipment that runs at 85 decibels, and I walk 50 more feet, I'm 100 feet away, I'm at 79 decibels. Yeah.
So what is the decibel count? That's all I want to know.
Getting there. I just want to explain how we got those numbers.
That's all right.
So what you'll see on the report is on the construction site, about 50 feet from the actual equipment, typically you're in the 80 decibel range, right? That's 50 feet away from the equipment. That's not where people are going to be. When we looked at the surrounding properties, you can basically kind of picture circles, concentric circles going out from that center and dropping 6 decibels, dropping 6 decibels. What we found was that a good reference level, just to keep in your head, is about 65 decibels. That's about the sound level of 2 people standing 3 feet apart having a normal conversation. That's a level that DEC and EPA like to see you strive for, if to the extent practical for a project like this. What we found was that there were a number of properties that were going to be in the unmitigated state that would be over that 65 decibels. At that point, we recommended that National Grid adopt what is a pretty standard construction practice for projects of this scale, which is the sound barrier that Ben was describing. They're acoustic blankets that go up either on the wooden framework or fences, whatever it is. They're designed to both absorb sound and to block it. And typically in the lab, you know, you can get 15, 20 decibel reductions, which sounds great. Real world, 10 decibel reduction is a pretty good number. That's been vetted on actual construction sites. They're reasonably effective. With that 10 decibel reduction in place, most of the properties around the site are going to be below 65 decibels. There are a few, and you'll see the numbers in the report, that are going to be up to 75 decibels, which is comparable to like a busy urban downtown center. The thing to realize about that is those are outside numbers. So the properties that are closest, like St. Luke's, are residential properties where people are typically going to be inside closed buildings. Those buildings provide another 15 decibel reduction. So again, you're down at or below that 65 that is the goal. Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson, do you agree with this assumption? Do you think that this is...
Well, I just feel as though there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. It's not real. Because if you're trying to sleep and your window is open, you're not going to sleep like you did last year. It's not going to happen, all right? This is going to be a disturbance to that entire neighborhood on both sides of the river. Absolutely. I don't know why they want to do it in the summer. They could do it December, January, and February, and March. And it would be less painful to the people who want to enjoy the summer and open their windows and get the breeze come in without listening to this kind of noise, you know? So this thing came around, they decided that this should be done in 2006. And now they're telling us we got 11 months to do it. I don't got that. Also, does Scythe take their energy from the west to the east and Pipe 55? It has nothing to do with Scythe.
Scythe? Yeah.
Didn't you just read a statement from Novellus and Scythe?
Yes.
They don't get their gas from the west side of the river.
NRG does get gas?
NRG does, but they don't go online very often. You know,
I could have easily read the NRG letter.
that's okay. Just my point to make that they're not taking their gas under the river. Okay, the letter you read. But quite frankly, there's more than one way to get this pipe under that river without disturbing the people in the city of Oswego. And I think National Grid needs to pony up, do some real engineering for a change, and put together a project that doesn't bother everybody for 66 days during the summer. Thank you.
So, I have to agree with Mr. Johnson. You know, to go between two nursing homes, come from the 7th Ward, which Councilor Cordino's in. I'm in the 6th Ward, so it affects us immediately. There's got to be another way.
So,
Gotta be.
Mr. Johnson had mentioned the asking us to start it in the winter. So we had considered that as an alternative. And the reasons why we think it's not the best idea, there are 3 reasons. The first is that National Grid has internal restrictions on drilling on hot lines during heating season. So in other words, the gas line will be worked on during heating season, and therefore there's a greater risk of a greater impact if something goes wrong. So
The line won't have to impact that until the heating season is on. You'll put the new line in the winter and then transfer that energy to the new line in the summer. Thank you.
well, we're also going to be doing work near the... in terms of... I understand Mr. Johnson's point, and we'd have to take a look at that specific response. The second reason
let me just say one thing
Yeah.
before you go any further. The effects of even the wind. This noise can travel countless amount of ways depending on the wind around here. It can. It can go east, west, north, south. So we're not just talking in a small area. It could affect, you know, both sides of the river. You know, summer, people around here live for summer. Their windows are open, they're out on their decks, they're trying to enjoy it. We don't want this type of, you know, aggravation for a summer. We don't. And I got to agree with Mr. Johnson. You got to come up with a different way, I think, for us to, you know, we live here.
No,
I got another project that Grid's doing that's bothering my ward as it is right now. I mean, they got it tore up. I got a street half closed. I got a transfer station pump that runs 24/7. That, you know, I'm pretty much sick of it. I'm going to tell you right now, I cannot support this, and I will not support this. This is not in the best betterment of the city of Oswego or its residents. Come up with a different way.
So as I
agree with Mr. Johnson on this 100%.
So to go through the
I'm going to go to a vote.
Come down.
Mr. Chairman, this is a presentation. I think a vote would be premature at this point in time, to be candid. I don't believe that the company is seeking approval tonight. They're introducing the project. There's a whole series of review that is required, not the least of which is the SEQR, State Environmental Quality Review. They've only submitted part one of that review. To take a vote right now that could result in a denial of this request, to me, would be the very definition of arbitrariness.
Well,
as I said,
Counselor, they're asking for a waiver of the noise ordinance.
Correct.
But as I said earlier,
We have to vote on that, don't we?
I don't think you have to vote on that tonight.
Well, we have
That's what
to
I'm
vote
saying.
whether it goes to council or not.
Eventually, but this is a presentation. To me, this is not a one meeting decision. This is a process that has to play out.
What if we vote to table then?
so as I said earlier, as Kevin mentioned, we're here to talk, and we do have responses to the questions that Mr. Johnson had provided, and we'd hopefully be able to get a chance to respond. And understanding that you may not be happy with our responses, and you might ask for additional information, and we might have to come back. And we'd be more than happy to come back with additional information. We understand that your first impression is negative, but we're hoping that we can address those concerns and answer your questions.
But my obligation of being the chairman of this committee is to answer. The city engineering department has received a request from National Grid for a waiver of the noise ordinance. Now, Kevin, or Councilor Caracoli, where do I go with that?
Well, I think even Mr. Johnson said that there, and I don't want to speak for him, but what I heard him say was that, you know, there's got to be a better way. There's going to be noise generated. You're not going to get around that. What the company's proposing is essentially a 24/7 operation for 60-some-odd days. Although, Mr. Wiesel, you mentioned in your presentation it was 6 days a week. I just wanted that clarified. And all your paperwork says 24/7, 7 days. You mentioned 6 days.
So it would, for portions of the project, it would be 24/7. So it would be on Sundays, is that right? Correct. Right.
Okay.
So for the portions of the project, and we can, if the board is willing to listen to us, we'd be more than happy to explain the individual activities that require 24/7 work and why they require 24/7 work.
I don't know how the rest of the
I could
council feel.
okay, so would a better way to respond would be to have conversations with Mr. Johnson and then come back again with additional information? Or, because clearly this is federally mandated work, as I said before. And it's important work because clearly we have gas coming from the east side of the river, going to the west side of the river. We don't have other options to bring the gas, transmission gas, from the east side to the west side. So this work has to take place. So
My recommendation is go back to the table and negotiate with Mr. Johnson. And come back to us with a better plan, or a plan that's not going to be invasive for our residents. That's my suggestion, and I don't know how Mr. Johnson feels about that, but like he said, this was planned out, what, 10 years ago? Longer?
Counselor, you got a couple of people.
Oh, Councilor DeMassey.
I think it would be great if you do this at this point, and I apologize because I'm pretty embarrassed. We are not all, this should not be an attack session of any sorts, and I would like to hear you out.
Sure.
This work has to be done. We aren't like that. You're a guest, and I apologize for the way this is going on, but I do feel, you know, if you could, in my opinion, let's go out where you can talk to other people. We'll move on and bring it back in at another time.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Can we move to table pending further conversation and giving them the opportunity to come back with the answers to the questions that we've posed so far?
Councilor Caracoli,
And just letting you know, I feel like we do have some answers. We may not have all the answers, but if you'd like us to present this during one presentation after we've spoken to Mr. Johnson, that's totally fine.
You have the absolute right to table. I think that, I'm not sure that Mr. Wiesel was done with the presentation. I think that was his point. And again, I never thought that this was a one-meeting presentation decision. There are a lot of steps, in my opinion, that need to occur. But for the benefit of hearing this, and maybe we're going to hear it a couple of times, 3-4 times before it's all over with, but perhaps if there's more information, it would be helpful for me to understand and hear the full presentation, because maybe there are other issues that are raised or other issues that can get resolved tonight. Clearly, the timing and the noise and the length and the hours of operation are concerned, but that would be my only recommendation, is to hear the balance of the presentation tonight and then form decisions and opinions from this presentation.
Thank you, Councilor.
But I do agree that, with respect to the request, that if you're not comfortable with it tonight, you should table it. I would strongly encourage you not to deny it in the first instance, only because, again, I'd like to explore this a little bit further. Certainly Mr. Johnson would, and I would hope that you would, you would follow our lead as well on that.
Thank you, Councilor. So at this time, I'd ask for a motion to table.
No.
I think Councilor...
We would like to hear this.
The Councilor pointed out that we need to hear the rest of his presentation. I think it's important for us to get the full presentation now, so we understand all the pros and cons that you're trying to give us.
Sure.
And then we're armed with all the information. So I suggest he continue.
Sure.
Okay.
So
Without
thank you
interruption.
And I understand the emotion. I understand that you represent your constituents, and I represent National Grid. We're trying to work together, hopefully, and I have a very brief additional information that I can provide. And then, as we said, I'd be more than happy to have further conversations with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Caracoli. Thank you. So in terms of doing work in February, and I understand Mr. Johnson's concern regarding drilling on hot lines, so I'll take that back to my team and get an answer on that. The second reason was, if we work in the winter months, the daylight hours are reduced, weather and temperatures are more unpredictable, especially in Oswego, and freezing temperatures could potentially freeze our drilling fluid, which could potentially create even more of a delay. In addition, it's my understanding that, for example, in 2007, it snowed 14 feet of snow in 1 week in Oswego. So it's just, we're trying to avoid those types of situations that could potentially prevent us from doing work, and also to do work in a safe way. The third reason to that point is public safety, the public safety and the safety of our employees is paramount to National Grid. And the possibility of working in icy conditions, working near the river, possibly having people getting injured, we don't want that to happen. So that's the real reasons why we did not want to do work in February. However, we'd be happy to discuss this further, clearly. In addition, we can talk about some other ideas that we had that we had dismissed. For example, cofferdams or trenching. So the original pipeline was installed via trenching. Trenching means that, John, correct me if I'm wrong. John. Hey, John. That we'd actually have to drop charges into the river, and the charges would create the trench. And that's actually what happened in 1986. Is that correct?
I was on the installation, so that dates me, I guess, in 1986. But in 1986, we literally broke with hammers. Okay, we broke all the way across the river, and then we excavated it and put spoils on the top side. At that time, we did not need to use any charges, okay? But with the new regulations and the new depths that we need to go, before we needed to get it below the bed of the rock. Now we need to go deeper with it, so we may or may not need charges.
Thank you. So National Grid chose horizontal directional drilling for many reasons, but one of the most important is it has the least direct impact on the river of any pipeline water crossing method. As this board is well aware, the Oswego River is a prime fishery in the area, and the fishing business is extremely important to your local economy, obviously. Pipeline river crossings constructed using trench excavation and backfilling can increase the sediment load in the river, and according to our research, this sediment has the potential to affect downstream aquatic life and the habitat on which they rely through either direct exposure or sediment deposition. Horizontal directional drilling is designed to pass underneath the river and avoid disturbance of the river and underlying sediments. In terms of the other questions that Mr. Johnson had brought up, trouble drilling under the river. So it was my understanding that the previous project that failed did not use a diamond-tipped drill. So National Grid is proposing to use a diamond-tipped drill.
Let me speak to that.
Sure, of course. No.
I'm currently working on Pipeline 34 project in your ward. They've got the ultimate responsibility to make sure it's safe, reliable, the residents are happy, and we restore 100%. On my project, I'm drilling the CSX rail.
I know you are.
The foreman on that job is the foreman that tried to drill the river back to me years ago at the site. I don't even know what the year was, okay?
83.
I asked him point blank. I said, if you had the equipment...
Or 93.
Pardon me?
It was 93.
Was it? I think it was 23 months, he told me.
Yep.
I remember when I had the tent set up there. He said if we had the technology and the tooling that he has today, he feels he could be successful. He said back then the carbide was not what it is. He said depending on what you want to spend, these equipment today is guided, to the inch we guided now when we drill.
When you leave town tonight, look at the railroad bridge, which is...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That had to be installed because we couldn't get a big enough line out there.
Correct, and if this was 93, he said if he had the tooling...
I understand.
Then, he said he would be successful. They got the pilot across.
They did.
They did get the pilot across, they just couldn't get it really large enough.
That's right.
And he said if he had the tooling today, because we drill some pretty hard rock right now. In fact, we would prefer to drill in rock because we could steer much better with all of this new sophisticated equipment. And I'm going to back up just a little bit. For winter construction, a rig of that size is going to pump between 800 and 1,100 gallons of drilling mud a minute. So the drilling process, there's a bit out on the end, grinds up the rock, the drilling mud floats all of that particles back. The particles are filtered out and the mud goes back down the hole. So they're pumping between 800 and 1,100 gallons a minute as we drill. So as we drill, if it's minus 20, or minus 10, or even 20 degrees, we've got ice. Okay? When we go to mix and add it with it, then the DEC will tell us They can't mix additive because it's not DEC friendly. So there's things other than just the cold weather. We try to use no additives, 100% organic drilling mud, clean water, so we're not contaminating it. So that's another, issue that we come up against in the winter.
So the time frame of this job is approximately how many days?
I can't say it's a fixed number of days. It depends on what I get into. It's a highly variable process. I could get in there and I could go downhole. 50 foot a day is average what we drill in solid rock. I could hit 100 foot a day. Okay, I could hit 100 foot a day. I could hit 25 foot a day. It all depends on what you get into. What we get into when we get downhole.
Well, March to June. Let's say that's the time frame, instead of June till September.
And if we had to mow a little bit earlier, we just need to work with, we all know, I'm a civil resident, so I know what's here. You know what I'm saying? And I know what you're talking about when you say the wind, because you can hear the speedway one Saturday night, and the next Saturday night you say the track's not running, but they are running.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, I know.
Exactly what you're talking about. So, I've been doing this since 1971, so I've got a little bit of experience. But that's it, technology and tooling is improved every day. Every day. We're under the tracks, we're pulled in, we're successful at that. We're demolded, we get into some rock there. A little bit more rock than we expected, but we made it through the rock without a problem.
Well, thank you.
So when you say how many days, could go better, could go worse. I'll be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
Could go better, could go worse. So.
Well, the reason I'm saying March to June maybe is people aren't outside, they don't have their windows open.
Completely,
it's not going to be that's my thing, the time frame.
So you weigh everything, whether we go out in the middle of the river and start breaking rock and then need to put some charges in there. And then we've got fish and we've got all that, and we've got turbidity. These past 2 months we've had on Pipeline 34, we're fighting, keeping the right of way, keeping our mud on our right of way. We're passing inspections every day, but we're fighting it right now. So, who knows?
All righty. Well, thank you.
That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Well, that's, I think we can stop here, and if the board is okay with that, we'd be happy to speak to Mr. Johnson and to Mr. Whoever this council would like us to speak to in order to address your concerns. We understand you have concerns and justified concerns.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, at this time, I'd like to get a motion to table this. Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBurney. Call the roll, please.
Councilor McBurney.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBurney.
Yes.
Okay, item number 2. The City Engineering Department requests that Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. and the Common Council authorize National Grid to provide the installation of required street lamps for the Market Street Pocket Park. Is there anybody here to speak on that behalf? Anybody from the council? I see none. Can I get a motion to... Oh, Bob?
Yeah, National Grid needs an official resolution in order to add streetlights to the streetlight account. And the 5 streetlights that are proposed down in this park would be on a National Grid streetlight account in the end. That's what it's here for.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? I see none. Can I get a motion to approve? Councilor McBurney, Councilor Cordino. Call the roll, please.
Councilor Cabrera.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBurney.
Yes.
Item number 3. The City Clerk's Office has received a request from Bob Hofer owner of Lighthouse Lanes LLC, located at 295 East Albany Street, for a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to have live music outside in their parking lot from July through September 2019. Anybody here to speak on that? Mr. Hofer?
Hi, I'm Bob Hofer. Just looking for a noise ordinance variance for our summer concerts that we've been doing for the better part of 10 years, and it's a good community event, and we encourage the local citizens to come out, listen to some good local music, and enjoy our summers. So that's basically what we're looking for.
And your application is in as well?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. This would, Councilor Caracoli, this would fall under Mr. Thompson's request also, if we...
I guess I would defer to Councilor Hill and McBrady. I didn't think it was. I think their resolution was specific to residential establishments or more residential oriented. As was pointed out, I think Lighthouse Lanes is in the industrial slash, it's commercial now, but it's, I don't know what we're calling it, I can't remember now, traditional business or TB2, something to that effect. So I think that it's somewhat distinguishable, and I don't know how that affects the timing and what Mr. Hofer and the Lanes have requested by way of variance, but again, I defer to perhaps Councilor McBrady.
Councilor Hill.
Our revisions were just specific to residential areas.
Okay.
This should be treated just as it is right now.
Okay, thank you.
There's never been an issue in the past, and it's a great event, isolated from most residential areas, so I don't see any issue.
I've never had one complaint, and I live in close proximity to it, so can I get a motion to approve? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBrady.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrady.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come to this committee? I see none. Can I get a motion for adjournment? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBrady.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrady. Yes.
At this time, I'd like to reopen the Administrative Services Committee meeting, and I'd like a motion to come out of recess and then go into executive session. Councilor Hill, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey. Yes. Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Long.
Yes.
She did it to me again. Cut the legs right underneath. You gotta stop.